Welcome to Becoming the Ultimate Coach. I am the Jock and this is the Doc.
And with our combined experience in psychology and fitness, we're here to help you become the ultimate coach.
And today we're kicking it off with staying ahead of the game. In our part one, we're going to talk about AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So artificial intelligence, which is
Sounds scary.
Yeah, which is what AI refers to. In our case, we're just talking about, it's such a hot topic right now with ChatGPT, which is a website where you can go and put inputs in and get information out and different ways to phrase things, and Jasper is another software, and there's several. And a lot of industries are looking at this, are super interested in it, and we also think that it has some implications for the fitness industry. So we want to talk today about the pros and the cons of that.
Okay, I'm kicking this off with the good. And so you've seen me play with this. I love me some ChatGPT. It's basically like I have this, professional copywriter there. And the way that I use it and the way that I really like to do it is more of this kind of marketing piece of like, okay, how do I write this message to my audience? Or, we're getting ready to hire another trainer. Like, how do I write a job description? And it does an amazing job of like spitting out good language that's convincing. I can make some tweaks too of like, okay, let's make it a question, or let's make it a little bit more firm, or let's just change the tone of it. And it gives me that. And then we can play with just the editing piece of that.
Yeah, which is a nice feature. Now, let's be honest, part of what you really like about it is it's just fun to put things in and go, tell me this, do this, and you like the novelty of it.
Gives me answers.
Yeah, it gives them answers, and it feels simple and easy, and like, oh, and now I have all these options too, because you can tell it to say it again or try a different route or those types of things. So it is kind of fun in that way, and it feels less laborious than just trying to like, what's the right word to use here? What's the right there? And so, yeah, the point is then you can start to become the editor. And I think that's key. That's where this can be amazing if you know your market, you know your people, and you're kind of going, okay, I've got these core parts, and now I can spend my energy on really refining it for what purpose I want, whether it is a job ad or reaching out to clients.
Yeah, and people get concerned with this technology coming up of like, oh, is it going to replace us, or kind of what we're doing? And as professional fitness trainers, as gyms, I don't think we're too worried. It's a long ways away from that. But some of the things that it can do to kind of help us is, like, it's very interesting when you play around with like writing a meal plan. And we don't write meal plans for people. We don't find it that effective, but a lot of people come and ask for that. And so I was playing around with it the other day. I was like, all right, write me a under 2,000 calorie diet and make it gluten-free, because people are asking for that. And it spit out like, okay, have this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yep. And then I was like, okay, write me a grocery shopping list to go with that. And it kind of spit that out. So there's some tools that are used, that can be used with it, that specific clients, like, they can use themselves. So if you're one of these people that are just giving off meal plans based off of calories and macros, something like that, like, you might be in a little bit of a trouble. But if you're following us and you're doing the stuff we're recommended, I'm sure you're way ahead of that. So that's a kind of a cool feature.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's just sort of knowing your limits, knowing your own limits in regards to that, and really just playing with, and I love it too there's some of us that just love writing, and writing comes easily, and language use and all those things. And then there's some of us where that's not why we got into the fields that we got into. We want to help people, we want to interact. But with the internet and all of the amazing things with it, there is so much content, and now people expect it. And so this is just a really cool, efficient way to speed that up, be able to give people more information and insights, but also balance it with the parts that you really love, which is connecting directly with people and thinking about that.
Yeah, so moving on to the bad of this. So we're in this information age. And so like, people can go and get as much information as they want. And this is another way that people can kind of make it a little bit more nuanced of like, maybe I do just need a meal plan, or maybe I can just write up, okay, the specific workout for me. And so it's giving more information. But the biggest thing that we talk about, and we teach a lot of our coaches, is this information to implementation gap. So I would argue most of the people in the US, if they just did the things that they thought were right, they would be healthier.
Yeah.
But it's that implementation. It's figuring out like what works for them. And us as coaches, this is where we shine, and this is what we have to do. And ChatGPT is not going to be able to figure that out.
Well, and it's even similar to like podcasts or different things that you read and write. There's a point where you're just like, okay, I just got more information. I listen to this podcast about something, and they're talking about hormones, or they're talking about whatever. And you're just like, okay, well, now I have more information, but I still don't know what to do about it for me. I don't know how to separate it, or I don't have the background to really discern all the different research. So more information can be useful in this day and age, I think, to understand what we don't know, but it doesn't necessarily help us know what to do. And again, to your point, people know kind of what to do, but they really just don't know how to do it specifically for themselves in the context that they live, for their bodies, for their environments, all of those things. So thinking that this is going to be the answer and you just shove more information at people and now you're going to be like, that's not where we still have to know our craft and know how to individualize and personalize. And this isn't going to do that.
And it's kind of going back to that earlier example of like, I can have it write out a specific meal plan for someone and give them a grocery shopping list and make it very easy for people to have that information. But if you get to know that person, you're like, well, they're not actually going to prep and cook that stuff. Maybe just actually hooking them up with a local food service where it's delivered to them, like they're going to have a lot more success with that. The ChatGPT is not going to be able to figure that out, and that's why you have to know that individual. That's why we talk about having these times to sit down and break these topics down with people, so you can really treat that person instead of just kind of general idea of like, yes, if they follow that plan, would they lose weight? But if they're not following the plan, what's the point?
Yeah, and it's budget, right? It's what they're prioritizing. It's how this impacts their family, all of those types of things. And so, yeah, it's tempting and it's fun. And like I said, you're reinforced by like, oh, did you say that? Let me throw that in there and see kind of what I can come up with. But again, our big differentiator as professionals and people that want to be ahead of the game and really to make the most impact is that personalization, that individualization, hearing people, understanding what they want, and helping them get there.
And the ugly, and I really want you to break this down because the ChatGPT is going to pick from like broad topics and broad subjects and broad studies and give that kind of general information. And so where can we as coaches kind of mess up with some of that information?
Yeah, and this issue isn't unique to AI, but I think it's going to speed up our tendencies to miscue on this. And what Scott's talking about is this notion of when we look at research studies, or if you type something in and somebody's like, oh, the research said this or whatever, two things tend to happen. One is either the research that people are citing was done on a very specific population, let's say men in their 20s, and then it gets extrapolated out to the general population. So we know these foods are good for you or these foods aren't good for you, but we've actually never studied it on menopausal women or teenage athletes or whatever, right? The other part is that some of the studies have a lot of participants of varied, and they sort of have a mean result, the average result. And so what happens is that we tend to take this information and we're like, oh, well, this is what the average and this is what the stats said. And then we're trying to extrapolate it out again this way, and we're not addressing the two ends of the spectrum. And here's the reality, right? A lot of people that are coming to us, and especially if they have unique struggles or they've tried everything before and now they're coming to us, we're sitting down with them, we're having this, they're probably not on the average mean, right? They're struggling with one end or another. So for us to just let any sort of AI just sort of give us the answer, and I always tell that to people anyway, if anybody has the answer, that's right there, a red flag. There's a continuum there.
Yeah, and this is what makes us stand out as a profession because, and this is the point we keep on talking about over and over again, is this individual approach. I was recently listening to a podcast and they're talking about training based off of your menstrual cycle. And then really the conclusion after an hour and 40 minutes of listening to this PhD breakdown is like, you got to treat the individual. And the reason I like hearing that is because that was my original thought, but like getting that and hearing that, I think is good to understand. So you're breaking this down for people that are coming in with this kind of broad information. So if I'm typing into the website that's ChatGPT, I'm like, okay, what should I do for this type of person? And they spits out the answer, but I'm not taking that individual in consideration, then I could be completely missing the boat. And then the person's like, well, why do I even need you as a coach? So it's very important that we're treating the individual. It's very important that we are we're changing as we need to, and we're just using this AI to kind of strengthen some of these areas that are more for the content writing and the other areas like that.
Right, the fluidity of how we're talking. And did you notice how he pointed out that the PhD took a whole hour and 40 minutes to break this down? So yeah.
Luckily, I'm here to keep it simple.
Yeah. But absolutely, and I think that information and for individuals, and again, it's that balance between social media where you get like 3 lines and somebody posts something about, let's say, women's cycles and training, and then you're running into this AI that's like, yep, here's the thing, and really just saying like, okay, that's a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so to wrap this up, when we're talking about AI, if you have not played with it, like go and play with it. Like it's even fun conversations when I'm talking to my professionals and if they use it, and so it's fun in that aspect. But you can also use it just for your business and some of the areas. Like if you want to create some more social media posts, it can help you kind of with that. If you need some language for your website, it could be good for that. If you're doing some job postings, could be doing that. If you need to write a love letter to your wife, it could be good for that.
God, no.
Okay, side note, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So,
for the guy that's not writing them himself, yeah, of course, it's better than.
It's better than what I do naturally.
Which is nothing. Yes, got it.
Okay, but so as we wrap things up, give it a try. It's coming whether we want it or not, and I think it's a way that can really enhance what we're doing.
Yeah, and we're just trying to bring up topics about like staying ahead of the game, those types of things. So let us know, drop us a note, make a comment on like, is this topic interesting? Or if there's more that we need to go into, we'd love to hear from you.
See you next time.